Welcome to the All About You show with OMG and Friends, where we talk about the things that you think about and some things you don't. I am your host, OMG, along with my co-host,
Silky Smooth and Daydream.
As always, family, we'd like to thank you for joining us today. We ask that you please join in on the conversation, where your thoughts, your comments, and your opinions help drive the conversation. Today we're going to talk about, in our first segment of our show, is Rosa Parks. Now, as you know, this is a duplicitous month. It is Black History Month, alongside with being Heart Month. I'm always worked up because we can't ever just have a month to ourselves. Why do we have to share it? It's almost, anyway.
Right.
We're doing 2 weeks of Black History Month, so this is our second segment on Black History. And next week we're going to start 2 weeks, the latter part of February, on with pretty much our Bless Your Heart series, which is, for Heart Month. And so, again, I want to bring up about Rosa Parks. But, again, I've read, and I've actually entertained Rosa Parks in my home years ago. So,
Nice.
This was 30 years ago. And so, I'm often curious how people are selected to be our icons, our person of interest that we should pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
So, and as a matter of fact, people all believe that Rosa Parks was the first one to actually get arrested for having given up her seat
For
on the
not
bus.
giving up a
I'm sorry, for not given up her seat. She did not. She was not the first one. And as a matter of fact, there was a young girl by the name of Claudette Colvin. I tried to reach out to her. She's about 69 years old. She was actually the first one that got arrested for not giving up her seat.
Well, how do you not?
She was, and this was a 15-year-old.
This was a 15-year-old.
To point out, she was 15 at the time, and that happened 9 months prior
to Rosa Parks. So my mind immediately goes to, well, whose decision was it? So again, you're changing my history. If this 15-year-old lady, Claudette Colvin, was the first person to actually get arrested to start that whole little movement,
right?
Leave my history alone. Don't
Absolutely.
whitewash it. Don't stage it. Don't give me somebody that fits your bill. Give me who history has assigned to be the person to break through with that. So at any rate, they're just now paying attention to Claudette Colvin. Like I said, she's now like 69, 79 years old.
Well, how did her name come out in the first place? I mean, how did
well, basically, they had to have a story. For whatever reason, I guess Claudette Colvin was dark skinned. Okay, that may not mean much to you, but when people are whitewashing your history and giving you what they want, then they're going to assimilate what's closest to them. Rosa Parks was light skinned, long hair. She was 42 years old at the time. And
she appeared to be less of a threat.
Yes, and they wrote a story basically saying that she was tired. She didn't give up her seat because she was tired. Her feet were tired. She'd worked all day. She just wasn't giving up her seat. Now, conversely, the little 15-year-old at the time, I mean, she went out fighting, kicking and screaming. She refused to give up her seat. She didn't care about getting arrested. It was a movement within her. Within her
she looked like
an
unruly.
She would be someone that would challenge things, and they didn't want that. So now Rosa Parks was also an A-list activist, so she had worked with, so they knew who she was.
Right.
But again, you rearrange my history to fit whatever profile you have for who should be the right person, to be the one to start a movement. And see, that concerns me because, y'all know I question, anybody that knows me knows I question everything, and I encourage you to do the same. Because like I said, if you watch the news, then you are being uninformed, and if you don't watch the news, you're being misinformed. So either way, you need to pay attention and get the news that you need to get and extrapolate from that news what you can use. But again, I think that was a big deal. And I can give you another instance beyond Rosa Parks. There was a black president before Obama. There was a black president before George Washington. His name was John Hanson. However, now he was president in 1781 to 1782. Black man, first president, John Hanson. Well, they don't tell you about him. They just skipped straight over him and made it George Washington. Again, you're messing with my history.
Did they murder him?
I don't know. You can look it up since you have your tablet out. I've left mine at home. But, again, you're altering the course of how things should go. If John Hanson was the first black president, then we've got several others that are mixed. you
I
already
think
know.
Warren Harding.
I don't know. I have a list of them. I don't know Harding per se,
He
but
hated-
I do know.
He hated.
I do
people of
know.
color
Okay, there's
with
Thomas
a
Jefferson.
passion.
There's Thomas Jefferson. There's
Yeah.
Andrew Jackson. Everybody knows about Abraham Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he freed the slaves, which is why they put him on the lesser expensive domination of money, denomination of money.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He's on the penny, and it's copper,
Right.
brown,
And
and he's faced the
Yeah.
opposite direction of everybody else.
Wow.
So you never
The
notice that?
symbolism.
I mean, right. These are the
overwhelms
things
me.
that bother me that people probably pay no attention to.
Right.
Like I said, the penny's copper is the least denomination of all the coins,
Mm-hmm.
and he faces the opposite direction. Also, you had Warren Harding. Didn't you say him?
Yeah, Warren
Yes.
Harding, and he hated African Americans.
Really, did he?
Well, yeah, there were scenes they showed. I can't remember which documentary I was watching, and how when he was running for president, they had a bunch of kids reaching to shake his hand, and there were African American kids there reaching for him, and he would ignore them and selectively
Really?
just shake the white
Well, see,
children's
this is
hands.
the same thing I'm speaking of right now, where they get to select with whom they engage. So, in other words, rather than extend his hand to a black child, he had the option not to. So
Right.
he did. He exercised it.
Yeah, and he kept
You
doing
kept ducking us, and so you give us Rosa Parks, you don't give us John Hanson when you're supposed to. So it would have to make one think. Well, what part of our history is actually the truth?
and
Because
it's Claudette Colvin.
Colvin, Colvin. I reached out to her because I really wanted her to call in on the show.
Absolutely.
Oh wow.
Because now
Maybe we can. Yeah.
now more people are knowing about the fact that she was actually the first one. And believe it or not, there was another one after her. So Rosa Parks was really the third person.
Oh.
Oh.
Yes, there was one more.
Makes it even more interesting.
Yes, it does. Yeah. And so again, just give me who God gave to be in that position. Don't rearrange it.
Yeah, don't rearrange things.
Right, and I don't want to say why.
Stage,
Why
yeah.
would you do that? We already know why.
Well, yeah, and like I said, I entertained her in my home years ago, along with my good friend Judy Stanton, and she's
What was she
Evelyn's
like?
niece. Very quiet, very poised, very quiet, kind of meek and fragile.
Right. So she
okay,
made
well,
the perfect poster
So
child.
she she looked
She fit.
non-aggressive.
Right.
See, this little girl,
And that's what I was saying. They looked at her as an
She was more like Bo Quigley, I
right,
guess.
an unruly, undisciplined.
She was a fighter.
Girl.
She was a hustler.
Yeah.
You talked to her about getting off the bus, it was like, oh no,
Oh, what?
I'm going off kicking and screaming and fighting and
If
scratching.
I'm going, you
Right.
go.
That's right. So they did, but again, that's not the reason. That's not the way history should work. History should be exercised and implemented and executed the way in which it happens.
What
Right.
was it, Napoleon? A set of lies agreed upon?
Yeah, that's what Napoleon said. In the 1700s, a lie is a set of, a history is a set of lies that's been agreed upon. And the people that's agreeing upon it ain't us.
Oh, it's definitely not us.
Mm.
They decide, they agree, and then they execute it.
That's it.
And
Here we are.
here we are.
So with that note, guys, we will have to go to break, and we will be right back.
You're listening to the Bridge of Light Radio Network, a conversation.
Alright, so I look at the first one you're talking about. It says many people have argued that it's the ConstitutionFacts.com. It says many people have argued that John Hanson and not George Washington was first president of the United States, but this is not quite true. Under the Article of
Confederacy, he was still president. Yeah.
Yeah.
They
the
try to
United
act like that
States-
wasn't-
The United States had no executive branch. The president of Congress was a ceremonial position within.
Okay, well, he was still they still list him in as the first president, right?
But
And some say it wasn't.
No,
but
I'm saying he's not the first president technically because
It wasn't of the
he wasn't
United
under-
States.
he
It was
wasn't under the
Confederate.
United States
But still,
Constitution.
and that's part of our history.
He still
Whatever-
held a high position.
Whatever it was
Right.
part of our history.
Yeah.
We had the right to know.
Okay, so we could correct
Did you pull
that.
up Colvin?
I didn't. I was trying to invite him. I like this last one.
It was. I have it right here
People
under the
watch.
Articles of Confederation. Many people have argued that John Hanson and not George Washington was the first president of the United States. Yeah. They were visibly clarified. Senator Hanson has been confused with an earlier John
15
Hanson,
seconds.
a white politician from Maryland. So don't get him confused.
Right.
It's not
Oh,
black.
when we come back,
You gotta
I
go
need
straight
to
to-
straight into. I'm gonna do a live read on a commercial.
So could you have your
Yeah, actually,
Okay.
I was going to talk about.
I'll let you do that right.
All right, coming back.
Live racing is back at Sam Houston Race Park in 2019. Our 25th anniversary thoroughbred meet continues with 50-cent beer this Friday from 6 to 9 p.m. Post time for racing on Friday and Saturday is 7 p.m. Get a luxury suite for 10 people starting at just $2.99. Have dinner at our Winter Circle restaurant for just $30 per person, which includes admission, buffet, tax, and gratuity. It's the best deal in town. Live racing is back and better than ever at Sam Houston Race Park. For more information, call 281-807-8700 or go online to shrp.com.
Thank you, Daydream.
Gosh. And it is a blast.
Didn't you go?
Yes,
Tell
I
us
took my
about that.
niece. They had the Chihuahua races this past Saturday,
Oh,
and that was
I
so
wanna see the pictures,
much
so
fun.
cute.
Did you take any pictures?
So much fun and so cute. I didn't get any. I need to get them for my niece because she was just snapping
All
away.
over the place.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun, a lot of excitement.
How long
and
did it, what distance did they have to go? They're so tired.
yeah, it was a short distance, and it was hilarious.
I
But
can
how do they
imagine.
get them to actually
Well, they have them kind of corralled,
Cage
you know, and they do the little setup like they would for the horses at their starting point, and you know, they have their little set off on their little bell, and they have their owners at the other end trying to coax them and encourage them to make it all the way in, but some were running alongside the perimeter, and so I mean it's hilarious. They're throwing pups back inside because they're jumping across trying to get
They're
to
like, what are y'all doing?
yeah.
I'm a fool of it.
I know, and
Yeah,
so
so-
it's really funny.
Yeah, it was a lot of
Kind
fun.
comical, I
It
guess.
was cold and windy, and it was great. So
Yeah,
it was a
good
great
time at
time.
Sam Houston Race
Yeah,
Park. You really
absolutely.
can. And I think
Yeah.
later on during the year they have sometimes ostrich racing.
They have
all these
ostrich
different-
race,
yeah.
ostrich
And they
racing.
have chariots.
Yeah, camel racing. In March they're gonna have the corgi races coming up also.
I want to see
It's
the
a good time for a family. I should
Absolutely.
consider that.
I
lot
want
of-
to see
Were you
the
gonna do
Chihuahuas.
your office addict?
Yes.
Silky does
Authors.
author's addict because she is an avid reader and a writer. So for the most part, we allowed her to tell you about the new books that's out.
Right. I don't know if you guys are familiar with an American producer who happens to be African American. His name is Devon Franklin, and he, just in case you don't know the name, he is the husband. He is married to actress Megan Good. So you may have heard that she married a pastor of a church. Well, anyway, he wrote a book called The Truth About Men, and it is taken from a
Oh my
spiritual
gosh.
concept. I guess it was kind of, I don't even want to compare it with the Stephen Harvey book, but he basically was telling the truth. Well, it doesn't show.
Truth about men.
He talked about the truth about men, and one of the things he said in his testimony, he actually preached at Windsor Village United Methodist Church on Sunday, and you know, signed the book and everything there. But one of the things he was dealing with about the whole fidelity, infidelity thing, and he had said in his, that growing up his father was an infidel, but he was cheating with someone in the family.
Wait, no,
And that it
incest
was just
big.
well,
and
it
all
wasn't
that.
even. I don't think it was incestual. It may have been on
Just
another
like
side. It
a
was just maybe a cousin or a
in-law.
sister or something like that. But he was
Family.
he was just dealing with that, and he was talking about how God had spoke to him and told him to write that book, and he really didn't want to write it, and how he struggled with urges, along the way to for power, money, and sex, and he deals with those types of urges in his book. You can get the physical book, like what you would love, OMG
Yes, I like
and
the
Daydream.
book.
Yes.
You can also get the Kindle version, which I love, and the Audible version is narrated in his eloquent voice. Well, I told
Did
you
you
he.
mention his colleague? Because he has a colleague that's a pastor as well right now. That's kind of like in the front of things because of his infidelities. And he used to practice. He used to preach here in Houston with Joe Osteen. What's his name? Gray? John Gray?
Oh yeah. Also, remember I said he's a movie producer.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the movie Heaven is for Real about the little boy that dies and goes to
Goes
heaven,
up
and he
and
talks
come
about
back.
his experiences. Well, he's got another movie out. You may have seen the trailers called Breakthrough. So Pastor Caldwell promised that Windsor is going to buy a bunch of tickets on that opening night, and we are going to converge and support that movie. But he produced that movie Breakthrough, and he was saying how he was, a regular producer, and how when he did Heaven is for Real and it grossed all this money, they were about to promote him, and God said, don't take it. And he got blessed, and now he's a big time, producing
He's
his
done
own
even more.
movies. Yeah, and because they were saying in Hollywood, don't be the faith guy. Don't be the faith guy.
Yeah.
And he said, well, what better place than to show Hollywood that you can live in faith? And he talked about, he hit on this spirituality thing. So I actually bought this CD for the sermon, even though I listened to it, and I've been listening to it in my car over and over again. So you still can buy it. Want to go to the
Okay, it's called
$5.
The Truth About Men.
The Truth About Men, his book, easy to read, easy to follow, but he really deals with this, the spirituality and sexuality together. Yeah, this infidelity and basically how men are. And he says the complete title is The Truth About Men, What Men and Women Need to Know. So highly recommended by Silky Smooth.
Okay, then there you go.
And this movie
that
also
with the Bible is a good point of reference.
Right, exactly.
And
then the movie trailers breakthrough are showing, you may have seen them on television.
There's one that Tony Evans is in. Is that it? That's not the one, is it? I know he's coming along in some movie.
Yeah.
But he's from Baltimore, part of the country. Well, thank you for that, guys. You heard that. It's a good book. It's called Truth About Men, and also a movie called Breakthrough. What's his name?
Devon Franklin is actually the producer
Okay.
of that movie that's about to. It's going to be opening, I guess, within the next coming weeks.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, so guys, the second segment of our show, we're going to actually talk about whose history is it really? Black History Month is a crucial time for reflecting on the ways Black Americans have contributed to American history. It's also an important time to tell more stories about all the prejudices Black Americans have faced throughout the decades that have long since been erased from history books. Now, one would think that because the United States has repealed slavery, passed the Civil Rights Act, and twice elected a Black man to the United States presidency, that the United States has evolved to the point that Black history is synonymous with American history. It is not. It was presumed, wrongly of course, before 1915 that Blacks of African descent had little history besides that of slavery. So in 1915, Dr. Carter G. Woodson founded the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. Now, as you know, Dr. Carter G. Woodson is also the one who started Negro History Week in 1926, which is now manifested into Black History Month that we're now celebrating.
Because it was a week at first,
it was a week
and then
exactly. So he created that, and in doing so, he noted that the tradition in the United States was that Black people had no history. He puts it thus.
I thought that growing up because they never talked about it.
They never talked. We were in school, right? So he puts it thus: Blacks were overlooked, ignored, and even suppressed by the writers of history books and their teachers who used them. So basically, this is whitewashing. Race prejudice is merely the logical result of tradition, the inevitable outcome of thorough instructions to the effect that the Negro has never contributed anything to the progress of mankind. And this can be found on in the American National Biography online. The historical struggles of Blacks like Woodson, Du Bois, Ida B. Wells, Martin Luther King are very similar to the contemporary struggles of American Muslims as well as immigrants from South America, Iran, Iraq, any other foreign land. There are vast differences between white history and Black history. White history celebrates whites only and ignore people of color. As long as historians delete people of color from the picture, history makes white guys look pretty good. We didn't have a story of our own in this country when they brought us here in 1619, which is about 400 years ago, or will be 400 years exactly on August 20th, 2019, where they whitewashed our own story, so we didn't have one, so they gave us one. And no incident, or accident rather, that it is called his story. Let's talk about his story.
Absolutely, and thank you everyone who's been tuning in, to Melanie, Angel, Monica, Rob, Mary, my mom, of course.
Hey, Mom.
And let me see, we have so many other people. Silky, you have some other people that are popping up for you also as well.
Yeah, I got Melanie Clark. Did you see Annabelle?
Yes.
Evelyn.
Oh, that was there? Okay.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Quite a few listeners. Thank you, everybody who has
you.
been tuning in. Please give us a call here at the studio, 713-789-0096. The topic is, whose history is it really?
Yeah, it's not ours, clearly.
Absolutely.
But Daydream, you and I were talking when we were off air regarding an Hispanic situation.
Yes. So everyone is very familiar with Brown versus the Board of Education. That had to do with school segregation, and that part of the civil rights movement, okay? What this happened, now Brown versus the Board of Education was in 1954. What happened in 1948 was an 8-year-old Hispanic girl, specifically Mexican, by the name of Sylvia Mendez, sued the Board of Education in California. So here it is, an 8-year-old in 1948, yet they waited until 1954 for Brown versus the Board of Education.
So they chose again.
They chose
history.
again.
They're going to get
So Brown versus, I think I know about that one, and it was another case with a Latino man.
Right, and
I think it was murder or something, and Brown eclipsed that whole part of the history, and you didn't know
So
about
it's actually Mendez versus Westminster, 1948. Like all other Hispanic children in California at the time, 8-year-old Sylvia Mendez, who is of Puerto Rican and Mexican descent, was forced to attend quote-unquote Mexican schools and banned from quote white schools. So it wasn't just in the South. The Southwest was also segregated, okay? And most definitely so, because my aunts and my uncles can tell you to this day here in Houston, this is where they grew up at, they had to use colored water fountains.
Did you?
They were put in B groups, yes. The A group was the smart, intelligent white kids, and the B group was the slow, dumb kids, and they were all brown.
So whitewashing yet again.
Absolutely.
This is crazy how nobody.
Absolutely.
See, back during the day, I'd probably have gone to jail because I would have been vocal.
See, and in California, at the time, the state claimed that language was the barrier then, as now. The vast majority of Latinos in the U.S. spoke English, with 0% using Spanish by the 3rd generation. Okay, so Sylvia's parents sued the schools, and after a 2-year battle they won, Sylvia became the first child to integrate the state schools. However, in 1954, Thurgood Marshall used the Mendez ruling to argue for the desegregation of Southern schools, and also won.
So it serves as a precedent. It serves as a precedent.
Yeah, but see,
and this is the first time that I've ever heard
about this.
Right.
This is the stuff that I'm telling
Never
you.
heard
When
of
they
it.
rearrange your history, they decide, what's important. I have something in here. I forgot who it was. I think it's Time.
Do you see this?
Time magazine decided on who we should be giving credit to, and I think one of them was Pharrell Williams is who we need to be paying attention to for Black history.
Yeah, and I always wonder how and why.
Right, but
That's what I want to know. But to continue on, and just to put this in a little bit of perspective, because everyone feels like, oh, that was way back when that happened. No, Sylvia Mendez is only 82 years old, okay, and still alive.
Oh.
And as recently as the 1960s, teacher manuals in California insisted it was pointless to try to educate Mexican kids because, quote, 75% of them are mentally retarded.
I read that.
Okay, so we were looked at as
No different than Black people.
It's true,
You
because my
still-
mother went to school and was constantly put in the B group. Okay, and
Blacks
she
were in
spoke
remedial
English.
class. It doesn't.
Absolutely,
It's the same thing.
constantly, always put in the slow group with the dumb kids and everything, and
With the dumb kids.
exactly that's what they called the B group. Oh, it's because
Yeah.
you're too dumb, because you didn't have special education.
They didn't, but they made sure they separated you.
Absolutely,
Right.
they
So
still
the
let
black,
it be
and that
known.
was always brown. It was
Right.
always brown.
And let's see, where was it that we wanted to put? Do you want me to read the quote, the black and brown?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Black and brown Americans have long been fighting the same battle against white supremacism. The dominant class has tried to divide us because they know that it is the only way they can retain their tenuous hold on power.
And there it is,
Yeah.
all in a nutshell.
Yeah, I loved it when I lived in Brooklyn. There was an organization called Brooklyn Unidos, and it was a black and brown, because it's mostly Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Dominicans.
Yeah,
those
right.
are my folks.
Jamaicans,
Those are my
yeah.
people. And it was African Americans and Latinos strong.
Oh, yeah,
that
especially
big
back-
organization,
yeah, absolutely.
Brooklyn Unidos, and I love that. And I said, and I always think about it, I wish I had a chapter here. We had a chapter like that here, where they wouldn't be able to stand us.
Oh, absolutely.
They would try to annihilate us.
Phone call.
Yeah.
Well, they tried to separate us within ourselves. Oh, we have a caller on the line.
Caller, go ahead. I think we missed.
Yeah, so sorry about that. Caller, please give us a call back. Again, give us a call here at the studio, 713-789-0096. Talk to us about your history or what you know as history, and definitely if there's something that happened that has not been put into the light, that's just been kind of whitewashed and erased in history. We want to know about that because, like I said, this Mendez versus Westminster, this was the first time of me hearing
I've
about
never
it.
heard of it either. So that's why I read it when you sent it to me earlier. And I thought,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Oh, I did get a
Again,
comment.
but they use that. They use the Brown versus
Board of Education.
Board of Education
Right.
to override that. To
Right.
still minimizing it, of course, but yet making
Right.
it.
Yeah.
So they
Yet you use that
compare.
case
You
to set the
use that
precedent
case,
in order
right.
to win your case.
Right.
Why didn't you bring
Why
light
did
to
you bring
that?
case?
Because they try to break up and
They
clip
eclipsed
from being united.
that case,
Yeah.
just deciding which one.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, go ahead. Caller? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, you're on the air.
Oh, okay.
I can't
hear you very well.
That is relevant.
Oh, yeah, well, she's asking if Black History Month is still relevant, which is also a part of what we're going to talk about.
Right.
So what do you think, caller? And who are we speaking with? I'm sorry.
Well, I think it's relevant now because we don't have anything else. I think we have to do like civil rights, activity in order to get people on board. Because, when people do Black History Month, I just think that's just, it's ridiculous to have 1 month. White people have all the 12 months, and they want to give us 1 month.
And then we have to share that. We have to share that with the Heart Club.
The fact that they gave us 1 month. And I myself would just rather take, just forget about Black History Month, and just let us be equal with the white people are.
Well, okay. Well, thank you for that opinion, caller. I believe that basically we need to, again, it falls back on us.
Right.
As a race, as a culture, as a people, as a parent, to teach our kids. Clearly, they're not going to get it.
Right.
They've been miseducated.
But then when we try to educate our own and let them know this is the true history, this is how it really happened, this is what's really going on, we're told that we need to learn to assimilate.
Yes. Well, they always have to, make it
so
better. It's kind of they're going to make.
I
it
mean, come
fit
on,
their
they've already,
criteria.
like I said, by the time you're third generation Hispanic in the U.S., third generation, you've lost your language.
Yeah, I'm running into that a whole lot, and I am not happy about it. In
there's so
fact, when I'll
many-
try to greet in Spanish, don't speak to me in Spanish.
Oh
That's
yeah,
like,
I get
oh.
the stank face.
Really?
Oh.
When it's a natural reaction. If I see you look Hispanic, you look like Latino, and your last name is Garcia.
Okay, that's
If it just
Since I've
happens,
been learning it, I'll do
buenos
it.
dias, whatever. What? And it's like, okay,
guy told me
excuse
that
me, I'm so
today,
sorry.
yesterday. A guy
Yeah.
at the University of Houston told me that yesterday.
Again,
He said, "Don't speak to me in Spanish."
It's still whitewashing.
I'm trying to get my English tight, and I said, "Well, because I'm about 45% fluent, so I'd like to engage a little bit." And he said, "Don't speak to me in Spanish." But let me tell you what Melanie Clark said. She says, she said, "Silky, remember what they taught us in school?" She was our classmate, and then she said, "History, the definition is his way of telling their story."
Your story. That's what I say. It's his story. That's why it's called
his
that.
way of
That was
telling.
no accident when they named it that. See, you have to understand a lot of that's what's being done is done right in your face,
Right.
in plain sight. But if the average person is really not paying attention,
Right.
like I just said, Times has the new modern day
Because
heroes.
maybe it's just a false trust or something. You're trusting the individuals that are telling you.
Trust no one. At this point, you got
Oh.
Bible, trust that, trust God's word, and a few handful of people that you can really believe will carry on and give the true meaning of Black history, because there's so many heroes out there. There's so many unsung heroes.
Well, see, Tom Joyner does that. He always, every day, he does a
does.
segment on little
Black
known
history.
Black history
That's
fact. And he said, I do Black history 365 days a year, and so does TV1. So they do it. They're not just
I have a
one
book
month.
here that says, what is it called?
1001 things everyone should know about African American history.
Guys, you got to read your own history. You have to read your history written by your people.
Who wrote that?
This is by Jeffrey Stewart.
Okay.
Read your history by your people to get a full, accurate account of what's happening, because when we get it whitewashed and secondhand, it's diluted.
Absolutely.
It's not what we need. And even in brown history. Go ahead.
Right. Well, I was going to say thank you, Angel Ramirez, for commenting, for watching and commenting. Angel, I know we spoke with him last week. He commented on the show.
Yeah.
Okay, he's a teacher, an elementary school teacher. Okay,
wade in the water.
Right. So he says, I just taught Sylvia Mendez's storybook, Separate is Never Equal, along with Ruby Bridges and the Memphis 9, and my kids, mostly Hispanic, connected for the first time that Latinos were also victims of segregation and white supremacy.
That's it.
I showed them a real sign from El Paso in 1949 that said no dogs, no Mexicans, and no blacks allowed. Oh man, were they schooled.
Okay.
Angel says, I also teach my little Latinos babies that Black history is our history.
It is.
Right.
It's written in big, bold
letters
on my board. It's the first thing they see when they walk in. Absolutely.
Well, I applaud it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Praise God for that. And you know what? I'm gonna push it like that
Thank
too.
you for listening to the show. Your comments are
Yes, I'm
Absolutely.
going to push it like that too, because I'm
Yeah.
in an education environment. I'm going to say, excuse me, Black history is your history.
That's it. I
Right.
said
It's in mine and yours
It's everybody's
together.
said
It's
that
our
today,
history.
because again, a lot of ethnicities benefit from HBCUs.
Yeah.
So you go to
Because
TX,
we're
I
all
went to
inter-
Texas
And when they
Southern,
opened the
it
door
was
for
just
us, it wasn't just for us. It was Native Americans, it was
That's
Latinos,
right.
it was other people.
You know, but there's Afro Latinos, and they tried to
Yeah.
segregate us within ourselves.
Right.
You know, the same thing. Light skin, dark skin.
We did a show on that.
Right.
Absolutely, we did. So it's all of our history, and that's why they try to get us, break us up amongst ourselves.
Divide and conquer every time.
Because
They do.
if we did several shows about this, the buying power, and if we would just unite, what a force we would be to be reckoned with.
trillion.
You know.
If we were able to bring the transportation system to its knees when Rosa Parks was named the mother of the boycott and the whole scene, if we were able to do that then, we could bring any industry to its knees
Well, if you just
and make them apologize.
the one thing you have control over is your money.
Right.
And see, when I get mad at Neiman's or one of the stores and stuff, the first thing I'll say is, you've heard me say it. My money may not mean much, but it's all I have to control. They will not get it. If I'm angry with you, and I will not spend my money with you.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
the
like
one
that.
thing I can control.
Yeah.
But us as a people, when we talked about them boycotting NFL,
I was gonna bring that
come
up.
on,
So
you
we had
can't-
every opportunity
we had
the perfect opportunity
game,
to really hurt them.
and we didn't do it.
We didn't bother.
They would have done it to us.
Oh, easily.
Okay.
They did do it. Come on now. Colin
And-
Kaepernick is still banned.
Right.
Okay, he's blacklisted. He's not allowed to play. He lost his job. He sacrificed his job. For what? For us to just say, "Oh no, I'm still gonna watch. I love my football." Knowing that it's rigged. It came
Right.
out in
Okay.
public. It's a rigged game. It's rigged.
Every aspect
They
of
said
our
it
lives are
themselves.
rigged. This is what I'm
Right.
trying to tell you.
Yeah,
Every
they-
aspect of our lives have been controlled.
You have
Directed.
rapists. Okay, convicted rapists.
Playing
Convicted.
ball.
Abusers.
Domestic
Oh, well, everyone
violence.
deserves a second chance. How? How is
Domestic
it
violence.
they deserve a second chance?
Remember
but
Aaron
someone-
Hernandez from the
yes,
Patriots when
absolutely.
he got indicted and
He's not gonna kill
convicted?
himself, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
He ended up.
He
well,
did commit. Did he commit
Yes.
suicide?
Yes. In jail.
And I said, if he thinks those New England Patriots are going to come and stand by him,
But he knew that, and that was in his contract. He knew that he was a gang member. He was high risk. They took an opportunity on him, and it was there in his contract. Look, if this and that happens, it's an immediate termination. He knew that.
Well, they have different rules, as you know.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
a double standard. There's
Right.
a rule for black and brown.
How do you give a rapist and an
domestic
animal
violence.
abuser, a wife beater, someone so violent? How do you say, well, everyone deserves a second chance? You have someone who stood up for injustice.
There was a guy.
Okay, who didn't commit any type of
Any
crime.
type of crime.
He didn't lay a hand on anybody, and yet he's completely shunned and
But
blacklisted.
see, that's our fault.
Absolutely.
If we don't pay attention and try to get behind
Yeah.
and support and thrust
Finally,
and
Nike
catapult that
stepped up,
person.
'cause he's-
I was really
yeah.
pissed when we did, first started doing this show on Kaepernick, because the black community really didn't support him.
right?
And to this day, I do listen to Al Sharpton every Sunday, and so he
Yeah.
still supports him.
Yeah,
And so, but again, it took us a minute. Anybody to me who shuts down their salary, their way of living,
Absolutely.
right.
for a purpose and a cause,
Yeah, Kathy Hughes spoke about it, and I sent around the thing where they blacked out the football with the blacked out, and I sent that out to everybody.
Like Daydream said, it was a perfect opportunity for us to just shut down and sit back.
Right. Now, this past Super Bowl, there was a few people here and there who, had that, hashtag I stand with Kaepernick, or
whatever,
or however they hashtagged it. I'm so sorry that I forgot. But you also had some celebrities, specifically Cardi B. She refused to do the Super Bowl show.
Yeah.
She said, I had to sacrifice a lot of money, but this man sacrificed his job for us.
That's the same way I feel.
To bring light.
And
for
she's
us.
young.
She's like that's the least I can do.
She's Dominican Republic. She's
mixed. Yeah, she's Afro Latina. But she's no dummy.
She calls a spade a spade. They think because she was a stripper.
Oh yeah.
That she's a dummy.
They think just because I'm this, I'm that.
Yeah.
People, you are too concerned about what that book cover looks like, and you're not even bothering to read it.
Nobody really pays attention to what's going on. Things are being done quite blatantly in our face, and as you can tell, since August 20th, 1619, which is going to be 400 years this August, it's still being done in your face.
Right.
I think on that break we have to go to break, engineer. Okay, then I guess guys, we'll be right back.
You have Melanie's that popped up for
You're listening to the Bridge of Light Radio Network, the conversation career change.
Listening to The Bridge. Share your opinion by calling 713.
Are you coming back with some news?
I can do a quick read.
Yeah.
For them.
I have no
Absolutely.
idea.
Your stomach is upset? Oh,
I had some dental work yesterday, and all. I think all that stuff is, all the shots and
Oh,
stuff they gave me.
yeah.
Yeah, all that stuff is. I was very form yesterday. I keep forgetting my hair all the time. Y'all got engaged. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely, but I like an angel. His name's Angel.
Ramirez.
30 seconds.
Okay, I like him.
That was racist. Ramirez Sanchez. Yeah, absolutely. So we went to college. We went to high school together. He was actually my prom date.
See, we're talking about all stuff he's talking about. Then
Yeah.
we talk about, so
He'd always
15 seconds.
Really
Back
teaching his
first,
kid.
I'll let you go. Okay.
Okay, absolutely. Hold on, let me pull it up on the one for Twitter.
And we are back. You're listening to All About You with OMG and Friends, where we talk about the things that you think about. I am your host, OMG, along with my co-host,
Silky Smooth.
And Daydream.
and speaking of Daydream, she has an announcement.
Yes, absolutely. Everyone, please don't forget live racing is back and better than ever at Sam Houston Race Park. For more information, call 281-807-8700 or go online to shrp.com.
Okay. That's really a good time, guys. You need to go out there. We've been out there a couple of times.
Tons of
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a lot
it was
of
a great
fun.
time.
I want to read something to you guys. I don't want to wear glasses. It's Genesis 15, verse 13 through 14, and this ties into the 400 years. And I'm not sure if that means we're going to get a reprieve of some sort, but it says, and he began to say to Abram, you may know for sure that your seed will become an alien resident in a land not theirs, and that they will have to serve them, and these will certainly afflict them for 400 years. Like I said, that ends August 2019. And the latter part of that verse is verse 14. It says, but the nations that they will serve, I am judging, and after that they will go out with many goods. So hopefully after 400 years, maybe they'll leave us alone. They'll stop whitewashing. But I don't know that they will, because a lot of you may not remember that we did a show on HR 1242,
Right.
which was a congressional act that was put in place to do exactly this, to recognize and highlight the resilience and contributions of African Americans since 1619, to acknowledge the impact that slavery and laws that enforced racial discrimination had on the United States, and to educate the public about the arrival of Africans in the United States and the contributions of African Americans to the United States. Now, most people know nothing about this.
Right.
What this is basically is
it's a bill, but it's not funded or something.
Right. It's an appreciation for who we are, what we've done. But it was so quietly signed in January 2018 by Trump that nobody knows about it.
You know, it's funny. He's so vocal about everything else.
Yeah, but
he got real hushed on this
the
one.
things that he's vocal about, you really need to watch, because that means he's being less vocal on whatever the right hand is doing.
Yeah.
He lets us see his left hand.
Right.
Absolutely.
Look at this. Don't move your eyes. Just look at this hand.
Yeah.
And this one over here is doing a whole lot of other stuff, you know. But we already know that this country was built on the shoulders and the backs of black and brown. So we do know that. So again, they're trying to convince us that we don't really play a role historically,
Right.
but we know that we do.
Right. Especially here in Texas.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, because this was Mexico.
Absolutely.
All of this was Mexico. So.
Yeah, that's a whole nother
Oh, it is.
topic. Yeah,
It is,
We
absolutely.
need to get into that one day. That's a whole nother topic. Yeah.
Texaco or something. Mexico or some kind of yeah.
But you know, you have a lot of people. There was a gay guy years ago who formulated an organization. He was the chief organizer of a monumental march on Washington for jobs and freedom. His name is Bayard Rustin, and nobody's ever heard of this guy. He was openly gay back in the 60s.
Oh.
And so LGBT was a little bit more quiet there,
Right.
and required less celebration. So
Well, there was no LGBT. I mean, the people were
Well, the
there, but
community,
there was
right,
no.
yeah.
The community was probably scattered and
Very
there was no
underground,
organization.
But
very
we don't know.
underground.
It's probably underground, like she said.
Yeah.
So that didn't just spring up somewhere.
Absolutely
out
not,
of
because isn't that where swag came from?
yeah, I
The
mean,
word?
yes.
It was an acronym.
For-
But it was for basically homosexual
Sexual
people
gay.
in hiding. That was a code. I forget exactly
I
what
used
it
to know the
stood for.
acronyms because the
Right,
four letters meant, yeah.
But that's what they would do, and that's how they would meet and know that it was someone safe.
Kind of like everybody having to meet other places, just like when black
Kinda
people
like-
drove across the country during the 50s
or when
and 60s.
Christians put the
And
fish
Christians
was
put
a
the fish,
marker.
right.
And
So
they
everybody's
were
got-
going for the
yeah.
church
Or like the
meeting.
speakeasies, you had a certain knot.
Yeah, yeah. You know, and so this guy here, his name was Bayard Rustin. But like I said, there's so many unsung heroes whose names are never called. But I know that in elementary school, the only thing you'll hear about, the kids probably hear about, is Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, maybe Thurgood Marshall. Very rarely did they talk about Malcolm X. Malcolm was a little too. He was too much for them.
Too aggressive.
Now, see, that's who I kind of got behind, because he questioned Martin Luther a long time ago. And you know his name is not Martin Luther. I know that, right? His name is Michael.
No, I did not know that.
Martin Luther. He went on some.
You're talking about
religious-
the
Martin
founder
Luther
of the not
Martin
the
Luther
founder
King
of the Lutheran
Jr.
Church.
or Martin Luther King, period, is not his name. His name is Michael King. He went on some religious retreat and came back and changed his name to Martin Luther.
Oh, okay.
But you know, again, if you get into that story, because usually after people have been dead for about 50 years, now you can start to find some of the excerpts of some of the writings and the readings and all the papers that have been filed and documents that were put away, and they're coming out now. And even in some of the writings I have right here, it says that King wasn't really our choice. They kind of gave us King. And towards the end of his life, when he was actually assassinated, that his ratings were very low and very negative, you know, because they felt some kind of way that he was involved. I mean, you know, you've got Hoover, you've got all these people that's involved.
Well, yeah, he was a threat because he was
actually
uniting, you
And
know,
you can't
black
have
and
that.
brown,
You can't have that.
and actually doing it in a peaceful way, whereas Malcolm X was not.
Yeah, Malcolm X said any means
With force.
necessary.
He was an eye for an eye, you know.
Yeah,
but
right. Any
So,
means
but
some
necessary.
things you just can't handle. I mean, you know, being
You
nice.
can't handle the truth.
I know, right? You know, but yeah, you know, they've released some really dirty stuff on Martin Luther right now. A lot of stuff. If you read it, some of the 50-year documents that have, same thing they did with Kennedy. You know, they wait 50 years, and then this information becomes prolific, and everybody's having
And now
to
they're switching out pictures and things.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But time suggests that you support and make a hero Pharrell Williams, in honor of Black History Month. He put together a list of 5 of the most influential African American men and women across the nation. This is Time magazine. Also, President Obama and somebody named Zendaya. They want us to, to
Zendaya.
Zendaya.
She's some celebrity, 19-year-old. Right?
Okay, she's a 19-year-old, and she's listed as one of the most influential teens of 2016. And we need to have all of that. Why?
Why? I know she was on Dancing with the Stars.
Why does she need to be?
How does she get to be the most influential?
Time magazine. I'm telling you, they're still giving you who you need to honor. So then there's also somebody else by the name of Channing Dunjay or something. I think that's one of the first African American females to run Disney ABC television group. And then you have Tanisha Coates, which is a gentleman, and he wrote a book that's one of the New York Times bestseller lists. So everybody has their hands in.
Right.
Who we need to.
Right. Well, who we do need to acknowledge is y'all watch the show Blackish?
Uh-huh.
Okay, you know the twin, the daughter, the one everyone's scared of. I forget her character's name.
The youngest of the twin.
The girl, yeah. She's actually a producer.
Is she?
Yes. So she's coming out with the movie. She's come out with the movie, and she was supported on it, but she is the youngest, and the youngest producer and the youngest Black female. Producer, but this is a mainstream movie that's coming out.
That's awesome.
But she was inspired by the movie Big, Tom Hanks movie Big, and she was inspired by that, so she created a movie called Little.
Wow. So you never know where your inspiration comes from.
So that's who we need to, who should be on time.
Okay, they don't even have I'm telling you.
She had an idea and she used their platform. Okay, well, I have the means. I know these people, these producers, these directors. I work on set.
She's a nice little actress. She has good.
Yeah, I love her.
Her timing is perfect.
Oh yeah, I love her, and I love her character. She's like,
yeah, she's really fun. She's young. Yeah, that is a good show. And again, you see, it's called Blackish.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's
good. I watch it regularly.
Yes, because he's he's really good about bringing in historical facts and putting things into perspective.
On Black college, Bill Cosby used to be one of the main ones who used to support Black colleges. He always wore Black,
his alma mater or somebody. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So and even though he's incarcerated now, he was still a big figure in Black history.
Absolutely.
One of the first blacks on TV, actually.
That's right.
And so all those
educated family.
That's right. So everybody who has an opinion about him, bear in mind that they knew there was a casting sofa when they went to his place.
Right.
You can't act like you don't know.
Act like you don't know.
Yeah.
What are you crying
But there was a casting sofa for everything.
Oh, absolutely.
So they can't just pinpoint. Oh, how dare he? No, he wasn't the only one.
That's right. And they made an example of it.
Now
they've gotten quiet. Have you noticed how quiet
absolutely.
it's gotten?
Yeah.
But in your opinion, in closing, what are you guys' thoughts on? Is Black history relevant now? Do we still need to have it? I'm going to offer my opinion first, and I think that we do still need it in a full capacity because who we have in office, is that acts of faith? You have all this Silky. Is that acts of faith?
Yes.
I read mine every day.
Yes.
Anyway, back to
I feel it's relevant. I think unfortunately something is better than nothing. We need to throw that out there for our children and for the younger generation, and then we need to be able to reel them in by saying, hey, I know you were probably taught this, but did you really know this and this and that? And even Melanie commented that when she would take when I would do college tours to the HBCUs, the historical Black college universities, and kids were informed of the beginnings, these kids were so dumbfounded. The look of confusion. They didn't understand why those colleges were created or what made them so.
Because they've not been taught.
Right.
And briefly, you have Charlotta Bass was the first African American woman to own and publish and operate a newspaper. These are some of the other heroes out there. Sergeant Horatio Homer was the first African American police officer in Boston. Phyllis Wheatley was the first African American woman to publish a book. Don't we have a school here, Phyllis Wheatley?
Yeah.
And then also you have James Durham, who was one of the first African Americans to practice medicine. So there's so many heroes out here as I'm sure your culture has as well, that need to be brought out. And these teachers need to dig a little deeper and don't just take the regular standard 5.
Right.
You know, the Malcolm, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
the
not
Martin
even
Luther King,
Malcolm.
the Rosa Parks. Yeah, they have what they want us to have, but go beyond that. And as I said earlier, if you don't watch the news, then you are uninformed. If you do watch the news, then you are misinformed. So be sure to find out for yourself what's going on in that world of yours.
I have a thought I'd like to share from Acts of Faith, Daily Meditations for People of Color. In the solitude of your mind are the answers to all your questions about life. You must take the time to ask and listen.
Absolutely. That's one of
Our
my
thought
favorite
of the
books.
week, yeah.
Well, guys, go out and make it a great rest of the week. We will see you and talk to you.
Yes, and don't forget, please continue the conversation. Just because the show ends does not mean the conversation ends. Check us out on our website, www.allaboutyouShow.info. That's all about you, the letter U, show.info. On our Facebook page. Again, thank you everyone who's commented and who participated in the show. For our caller, and hit us up on Twitter. You know, all about you, and share with us your thoughts, your comments. You know, we always have a rotating chair that's open. Also, you're welcome to come into the studio. This show is for you. We want you here with us.
That's why we have a seat right
Yeah,
there with
absolutely.
us and a mic. I mean,
That could be you.
That could be you sitting over there. And on that note, guys, we want you to have a good rest of the week, and we will see you next week on the radio.
All right. Sweet. Thank you for listening.
Expressed on this program are not necessarily those of the Bridge of Light Radio and its staff.